This is going to be a trip report for LSD. I'm going to start with my first LSD trip. I was at a rave with one of my friends. I'll call him F for now since I'm not going to name names. So F and I were at a rave and I smoked some weed and did a pain pill. And then there was this guy who had acid, and I couldn't resist it for my first time, and I thought, well, this is a chance of a lifetime. And so I got the acid and I took it down to F and asked, do you think I should do this? It was only $10. And I gave it to him, put it in his hands, and then he gave it back to me, and he told me to put it under my tongue, and so I did, and I held it there. Then I went back in and kept dancing, listening to the music. And after a while, I started to freak out, and I sat outside, staring at the wall. Things were like maybe moving a little bit, not that much. Like there was a picture I think I recall I kept staring at, and it might have changed a bit from what it originally was. Not that many visual hallucinations, though, on one hit. And so, one girl said to me, everyone here is really nice. And at the time, I took it on everyone on Earth is really nice, not the rave, the house that the rave was in. Even though she probably meant that everyone in the rave was really nice. I took it as everyone on Earth is really nice, because I was really mind trippy. And then I was hearing a weird language, Schmoldehinge, something like that. It wasn't real. And afterwards, it made perfect sense to me that I was communicating with my dead grandmother. And this actually happened at a later date. Actually, not on any drugs. I heard my grandmother, Goggy, talking to me. And she said, you're unique, you're special. She said, I forget everything she said, but she was talking to me and she was in heaven, and she said, I have to go now. And she said my grandfather was in hell. And yeah, I don't remember everything from my first acid trip, but the biggest part of it was I was communicating with my dead grandmother. I was sitting there hearing Schmoldehinge of also like at the end of the rave when they were taking the trash out, I wanted to come with them, but they said sit here. And so I did, and then eventually me and F went home to my apartment, and I was tripping so hard that I forgot how to get to my apartment, but eventually I got to my apartment. And then me and F had sex. It was weird. I did some Molly too, and ketamine. Even though later I read that ketamine can cause lesions on the brain, so I definitely don't recommend it. But I did that, and the sex was actually, it felt spiritual, even though it wasn't the sex itself, it was all the drugs in my body that was making it feel spiritual. And afterwards I just laid there. Eventually I took a shower. Okay, now going to my next acid trip. I took 2 hits. I was in a room with 2 friends. I'm not going to even give them a letter in how, but I was with 2 friends. I was sitting in my apartment. Well, we actually took it at a bus, but at the bus stop, and then we took the bus to my apartment, and then we sat in my apartment. The floors were shifting kind of a bit, but I wasn't having that many visual hallucinations. Again, I couldn't seem to get acid to work, but the floors were moving a little bit, shifting, and my head hurt, and I was feeling, felt like a heavy body load. My friend actually suggested it was probably for ACO DMT and not. I really want to try DMT though, but it wasn't DMT. But another friend thought it was acid, and so I don't know what it was. But you never know what it is unless you make it yourself, I guess. Not that I'm not recommending doing anything. This is just my experiences. So, and then we stood outside on the porch talking about how there's a guy in the room, my old roommate, and how he didn't know. We also, I think, we might have smoked synthetic cannabinoids. I don't really remember. And then the next time, I took 5 hits of acid, and I don't really remember much of anything happened. I know I saw a sign that said, "Keep your kids in science class. It's gonna save the planet," something along those lines. And I mentioned it out, and I asked my friend A, who also did some acid. He said, "No, that's really there," like, because I was asking if it really said that. I was hoping it didn't because I wanted to be tripping so bad. At that point, I had only taken 3 hits, and he said, "Yes, it's really there, but that's cool, you're in science class right now." I kind of like that view that tripping is kind of like science, like discovering your own mind. And so I bought 2 more hits, and I took them. I felt really peaceful. I was playing violin. It was mind-trippy, I guess. I wasn't really hallucinating at all. Eventually, I was sitting there with a bunch of people playing instruments for money, and they were singing a song called "Don't." The lyrics were "Don't know if I need you, don't know if I, but I need to find out." And I was playing along to that, and there was another song too, and I got really into it because the thing is, when I started it, I was telling my friend A about how I thought I was telepathically communicating with someone. And I guess I have to explain how that started too. I will. It's kind of cool. It started out good. So I told him that it started, I heard combat Caden in my mind. And somehow I knew it was him, my friend. I won't name him because this is kind of personal to me, and I've been struggling with this, but at the same time, it's also something I feel the need to make a trip report about to kind of finalize it. And he kept talking to me in my head, and so I told my friend A this because he told me he had telepathic experiences on acid, and then he was talking to me about the stars and the planets, and he was pointing them out to me, and we were outside by the river. It was kind of a really cool setting for an acid trip. I wasn't really tripping that much, but I was mind tripping, like I was thinking about the planets and the stars, and when we smoked some weed too, and when I did, like, I tried to send it to him, the guy I was telepathically communicating with. Turns out I wasn't actually telepathically communicating with anyone, and so I tried to send it to him. I said his name and blew it out and imagined it going into his body. Because see, one time when it started, I saw green smoke coming into my brain, and I inhaled it, and I thought it was him sending it to me. And it was neon green, and it was really cool. It was a different time when I was on Adderall and I couldn't go to sleep. Of course, you can't go to sleep when you take Adderall, but it was past my system, and I did some weird brain trick where it kept my mind awake and tried to let my body fall asleep. And then I couldn't fall asleep. I was up for maybe 4 days. This was when it started. It started when I was on Adderall and I heard combat Caden. But anyways, after this acid trip, and 5 hits, which I wasn't really tripping that much. It was really mind trippy when I was walking home. I stopped at the trees and tried to listen to them. That's one of my goals in life. I want to learn to listen to trees. And so I was sitting there listening to the trees. I wasn't hearing anything, but I felt really serene and peaceful. Everything made perfect sense to me at the time. And then I walked home all the way from... It was a really long walk home, and I walked home, saw all the other people who were up, and these are the people who couldn't sleep, and I kind of felt an affinity with them. It's one of my problems is I can't sleep that well. See, after this trip is when I started really tripping. So I think it's still because of the acid that I didn't trip, and it might have had a delayed effect on me. I'm not sure, but what happened was this guy I was talking to in my mind, and he said it's good to talk to you, man, and he said don't apologize. It meant don't apologize for who you are, and it was really cool. And when I couldn't sleep, and I thought I was keeping it up, and he was like, I'm asleep, don't wake me. And I kept waking him because I couldn't sleep. And then I heard I'll die. I heard die. First I heard die, and I wasn't sure if it was me. Then I heard I'll die, and I thought it was him. And because he thought I was asking him to die, which I wasn't. It was a voice, I think. And then I wanted to die because I thought he thought I wanted him to die because I loved him, even though he's with someone else, and my experiences with him, most of them weren't real. There was one experience with him that was real. It wasn't telepathic, though. I'll leave that out because it was special to me. So then he questioned whether or not I'm really an anarchist. This was a really bad experience, but after this it got good again. We kept communicating with each other, and then eventually there was this thing, we'll meet again, and I made up this thing called Spirit Tribe, and I thought we were a tribe of spirits who connected to each other beyond death. And I think this is all because I did 5 hits of acid, that I had all of these experiences that I don't remember with this guy who doesn't really exist. Might not be because of acid, but I can't think of why else, because I wasn't really tripping before I took the acid, and afterwards I was just tripping, and he kept saying, I'm real, I'm real. And he sometimes said not music when I was listening to music in my head, because sometimes I hear music. Alright, I think that's it for acid. I might make a couple trip reports for MDMA later on, and if I get the chance I might make some trip reports for Solitaire. I'm not recommending this. See, I just heard in my head you'll get caught. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just revealing my experiences for educational purposes, because I see what's the point of doing it if you're not going to use it and to the fullest benefit you can get and help other people along the way. I think that, I don't know if acid can affect you delayed, or maybe it triggers schizophrenia. I can't say that. Most of it was good. Lately it got bad, and hearing things that were negative, and I'm not going to share those because I just don't feel the need to share those experiences, because I figure share the good and not the bad trips. Because the bad trips are just our fears and the shadows of who we are, and throw those out. I want to just throw those out and get back to the good and stop tripping for a while before I trip some more, Alright, peace out, guys.